Photo Equipment Part 5, Kits and Purchasing Plans, Presentation for the Advisor, Revised 2026, August. Sample Kits and Purchasing Planning is the 5th video in the equipment series. What we will cover: selection guidelines, purchasing planning, sample kits, how many cameras and lenses do you need, sample purchasing plans, migration from dSLR to mirrorless, other stuff, and a summary. Equipment Selection Guideline. Equipment Selection Guideline. Cameras, high ISO level, 25,600 or more. This is to handle night and gym games and dim events such as a theater. This gives you more flexibility with the lens selection. Lenses, APS-C, general purpose, 18 to 135 or 140. Daytime long, 18 to 300 or 75 to 300 or 100 to 400. Low light lenses, in the gym, 17 to 72.8 or 35-1.8. On the field at night, 70 to 200, 2.8. In the theater, 17 to 72.8 and 70 to 200, 2.8. Sample kits. Here are 2 sample kits for Canon mirrorless, APS-C and full frame. The top cost line is just for the camera and a general purpose lens. The bottom cost line is just for the total of the 3 specialized lenses. It does not include the camera. These are separate because you would be getting multiple cameras, but probably only 1 or 2 sets of your specialized lenses. So that's why they're separated in prices. And for Nikon mirrorless, APS-C and full frame, and for Sony mirrorless, APS-C and full frame. An important note: the previous samples are samples. The samples are just one of many different camera and lens combinations. As we said in the requirements video, you have to determine your requirements, then determine what gear matches your requirements. My requirements are likely different than your requirements. Thus, my kit may not meet your requirements. This is a thing you need to be careful of. When somebody gives you a recommendation for a kit, it may be based on their requirements, not yours. And thus, that kit, again, may not meet your requirements. For example, this is the camera and lens kit for my class. Cameras, Nikon D5600 and D7200. Lenses, 18 to 140 general purpose lens, 17 to 50 2.8 for the gym, 70 to 200 2.8 for the field at night, and 18 to 400 for the field diamond for day games. Purchase planning. Brands. The 4 major brands, Canon, Fuji, Nikon, and Sony, will all do the job. They each have lenses for the major categories: general purpose, gym, field at night, field/diamond during the day. The purchase plan. From the camera and lens videos, you would have determined what camera and lenses you need for your class. Here we put that together. This is a sample kit for Nikon mirrorless. We're going to be using this kit for the following examples. How many cameras and lenses do you need? You need to answer 3 questions. First, do you have events or games where you want or need to send more than 1 photographer, such as homecoming, dances, track and field, and others? Second, do you have enough staff to send more than 1 photographer to an event or game? And third, can you plan around multiple events or games that happen at the same time, such as basketball, wrestling, soccer, and a concert all happening at the same time. Basketball, softball, and tennis, again, happening at the same time. For us, we can get by with sharing gear in the fall and winter, but spring is the worst time to manage sharing of equipment. Why? Because we have 19 sport teams in the spring. We have had up to 7 sports playing at the same time: lacrosse, baseball, softball, tennis, swim, badminton, and volleyball. Finally, if you have a spring delivery yearbook, you may have only 1 month from start of spring sports to your final deadline to get your pictures of all the teams. So you have a time deadline. So how do we figure this out? Plan your shoots. Make a calendar such as this one. In it, you will lay out your events and games. Highlight the ones that are your home games. For example, on this picture, everything in green are home games. The ones in orange are nearby away games. The ones in white are distant games. The idea is, most of the time you will be shooting home games and occasionally your nearby games. Next, you assign staff with gear limitations. You need to plan for bad weather in the winter and spring, so get the outdoor game shot as soon as possible and keep repeating until you get a working plan. So what is gear limitations? With gear limitations, you have to select which games to shoot and which games to shoot later. For example, if you only have one 18-400 lens used for baseball, softball, tennis, and track and field, then you would be looking at the picture on the right. First line, softball, varsity, and tennis in the red circles. Well, you only have one lens, so you can only shoot one of them. So what you do is, in this case, we picked varsity softball. The tennis, we're going to push it off to shoot tennis the following week. The next day, we have JV baseball and JV softball. Again, we only have one lens, so we can only shoot one of them. So we picked JV softball. JV baseball, we push off again to the next week. You see the arrow going down to the following week? And on Friday, we have varsity baseball and varsity softball. But we already shot a game on Tuesday for varsity softball, so we don't have to shoot that one. We can X that out. So the only game we shoot is the varsity baseball. You would do this basically for all the sports that have sharing lenses, and you use this to allocate which game you need to shoot at. Warning, do not wait till the last games to shoot your picture. Murphy is waiting for you. Murphy relates to Murphy's Law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. Some examples. It rains. The last baseball, softball, tennis, or track game is postponed till after the final deadline. You go to shoot the game or event and the battery is empty. It was not charged. You forgot your memory card at home. You forgot what time the game starts and you show up after the game is finished. And because you waited till the last game, you now have no pictures of the sport. And that is why you never wait till the last game to get your pictures. So how do you deal with the gear limitation? This is our kit, and I'll take you through the points in here. Baseball lens. We ran into the exact same problem we talked about earlier. We have baseball and softball on the same day, along with tennis. So we decided we needed to have 2 of the baseball lenses the 18 to 400. Well, we ran into the same problem in the gym. In the winter, we have basketball in one gym and wrestling in the other. In the spring, we have badminton in one gym and boys volleyball in the other gym. So we needed 2 gym lenses. On the field at night, teacher decided we needed to put 2 photographers on the football and soccer field at night. So we got 2 of the field night lenses. Well, right around the corner, our baseball field is being rebuilt. So we're going to have night baseball games. So the 2 field night lenses, one of them's going to be up on the baseball field and one of them's going to be down shooting lacrosse. Now the general purpose lens. We bought 6 of those in kits with the camera and lens. In retrospect, we probably could have just used 4. But since we started off in the beginning with just the 18 to 140, we ended up buying and using most of those 6 lenses. However, now that we've got the specialty lenses, several of those lenses are just sitting idle as spare lenses. So, how do you deal with all that gear? In our case, we don't have them loose in a cabinet. We have made kits. As you can see in here, we have a night field kit for football, soccer, and lacrosse, day long for baseball, softball, golf, tennis, track, and field, gym and general purpose lenses, and a general purpose bag. We have 7 bags, each completely configured: camera, lens, spare battery, and charger. That way, when somebody needs to shoot an event or a game, we just grab the bag that applies for that particular game. We don't have to decide, okay, we need this camera and this lens and that spare battery and that charger. Everything's already packaged. We just grab the bag. For instance, somebody shooting soccer, we just grab bag 1 or bag 2. Everything's there. No figuring out what to get. Purchase planning. Given a budget, you may not be able to afford to purchase all the camera and lenses at one time. So, you will have to stagger the purchases over several years until you build the full kit. Plan the purchase. Determine what gear is most important and plan to get that first. If you're buying DSLR cameras and lenses, plan to get them as soon as you can, before they are discontinued or harder to get than they are now, because many of those cameras and lenses have been discontinued. Then, think about the other gear and which to get in what order. Here is a sample purchasing plan comparison. We have 3 kits. Plan 1, 2, and 3. Plans 1 and 2 have the same gear. The only difference is when you buy the different pieces of equipment. Plan 3, we increase the count. Instead of 4 cameras, we now have 5 cameras. Instead of just 1 of each specialized lens, the gym, night field, and baseball, we have 2 of each. So you can make your plan just like this. You can rearrange when you get which pieces of gear. You can increase or decrease individual pieces of equipment. At the bottom of the table, there's a one-time line. You can choose to buy as shown on the chart in separate years, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, or you buy it all at once. The bottom line shows how much each package will cost. The advantage for buying all at once is on day 1, you have everything you need. You don't have to wait till next year to get another lens, or the year after to get a different lens. Everything is there for you on day 1. But you have to have that much money in your funds. If you don't, then you're going to have to budget by year. Sample purchase plan. This was done in 2021, and this is for my class. Budget approximately $2,000 a year. Year 1, get 2 cameras, camera number 1 and camera number 2. Year 2, we get a third camera, and we get 2 lenses, the 17-50 2.8 Jim lens and a 70-210 f4 field lens. Year 3, we get a fourth camera, and we get a 17-50 2.8, a second Jim lens, and a 35-150 2.8, a second field lens. In year 4, we get a Tamron 100-400 diamond lens for baseball. In 2023, Murphy hit. Look at year 3. All 3 items on year 3 were discontinued. So now it's like, oh darn, what the heck do we do? 2024 revision. Original budget plus the actual plus the revised of 2024. So, year 1, 2021, cameras 1 and 2. Teacher was able to get a grant which paid for camera number 2. With that grant, the money was saved so we could get the Jim lens from year 2. So instead of waiting for year 2 to get that lens, we got that in year 1. And we were able to use it in year 1. Year 2, cameras number 3 and 4. Teacher was able to get a bigger grant, paid for both cameras. So what we did was we pulled in camera number 4 from year 3. And it was a good thing. Remember what happened in year 3? That camera was discontinued. So by getting it in year 2, we were able to get it before it was discontinued. And because both cameras were paid for with the grant, we were able to pull in the lens from year 3, the Jim lens. And like the camera, that lens was discontinued in year 3, so it was a good thing we got it in year 2. Then we also got the field lens. By saving the money on the cameras, we were able to upgrade from the 70-10 f4 to the 70-200 2.8. And in year 3, 2023, the year everything went to pot, we got a 5th camera. Why a 5th camera spare? Well, we had 4 cameras, but if one camera died or got sick for whatever reason, we're down to 3. And we determined that we needed a minimum of 4 cameras. So by having a spare camera as number 5, this allowed us to keep running with 4 cameras. But you remember, it was discontinued, so we had to buy that off the used market. And we pulled in the diamond lens from year 4. So we got a Tamron 18-400 instead of the 100-400. Year 4, 2024 revised. Now we got a camera number 6, Nikon D70-200. What happened? Well, that had to replace camera number 3, which had a card slot damage. We used camera number 5 to replace another damage earlier. And we got a second diamond lens. Not included in the above are accessories, so these are just the camera and lenses. Used gear. For out-of-production gear, this is your only source. Pros. Buying used will help stretch your limited budget. If you buy from a reputable shop, buying used should not be an issue. Some of those shops have their own warranty. Cons. You'll be taking a risk with used gears. There is no manufacturer's warranty. You also do not know how the gear was treated by the prior owner. A counter to all this, in our case, all the failures that we have had have been from damage, not equipment failure that would have been covered by a warranty. Migration, DSLR to mirrorless. DSLRs and lenses are being discontinued. The only source of replacement or additional gear is the used market. Sooner or later, when you are not able to find your gear on the used market, you will have to migrate to mirrorless. Plan your migration and keep the plan updated as things change. You don't know when you may have to start using your plan. Decision: will you stay with the same brand or change brands? If you stay with the same brand, the pro is during the migration you can use your DSLR lens via an adapter. Canon and Nikon have DSLR to mirrorless adapters. Con: mirrorless cameras may not have the lens you want or need. Changing brands. Pros: if you want to change brands for whatever reason, this is the best time. Cons: you probably cannot use your DSLR lens on the new brand camera. Cross-brand adapters are not available for all combinations of camera and lenses, and functionality can be lost. Plan the migration, time and money. One-time replacement of everything. Do you have the money to do this? This can easily be over $10,000. In my case, a full replacement of our kit would be about $16,000. Gradual migration over several years. If you do not have the funds to do a one-time replacement, this is your only option. Start budgeting for the migration. Yearbook self-funding, increase the budget from the schools, or look for grants and donations. Plan the migration sequence. Camera first. If you use the same brand, you can use a DSLR lens on a mirrorless of the same brand with an adapter. For instance, you can use a Canon EF lens plus the EF to RF adapter on the Canon R mirrorless cameras. Similarly, you can use a Nikon F lens with the FTZ adapter on your Nikon Z cameras. Caution: third-party lenses may or may not work with the adapters, because there's going to be, if something doesn't work, there's going to be a bunch of finger pointing. Canon will say, no, it's not our problem, it's the third-party lens's problem. And the third-party company will say, well, it's Canon's problem for making a bad adapter. Different brands. Some mirrorless cameras can use other brands of DSLR lenses. For example, the Canon EF lens with an EF to E adapter can be used on a Sony camera. Some of my students have used this combination in the past. I don't know what other combinations will work, but that is just the one that I saw work. However, some combinations cannot work. For instance, my Nikon F lenses will not work on my Olympus mirrorless cameras. Yes, they have an adapter that you can mount the lens, but the autofocus does not function as it should. So effectively, the lens does not work. Lenses. Plan your mirrorless lens kit. It may or may not match your DSLR kit. Get the most needed lens first, then get the most used DSLR next. When a DSLR lens fails, rather than just replace it with another DSLR lens, get a mirrorless lens. Start your migration. And this is what I mean about migration. As gear fails and you cannot replace them, you have to start thinking about going to mirrorless. Start thinking about a migration path. What cameras do you go to? What lenses do you go to? I've built a path. When I have to execute, I don't know, but I've got a plan. And as new cameras and lenses come out, I will update this plan. Other stuff. KISS. Keep it simple. Standardize as much as possible on one brand of camera and, if possible, on one model of camera. Do not mix gear. If you can help it, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. For instance, you have a Canon R10 and a Nikon Z50 Mark II. the lens mounts are not compatible. You cannot mount a Canon lens on a Nikon, nor a Nikon lens on a Canon. Sooner or later, someone will check out a Nikon camera and a Canon lens, and when they get to the field and they try to assemble the camera and lens, it won't go together. Different models of cameras, such as the Canon T7 and T8i. The T7 is a daytime camera, not a low-light night camera. The T8i is your low-light night game camera. Problem 1. Sooner or later, someone will grab a T7 instead of a T8i for a night game. The reason is, to many students and adults, a camera is a camera. They do not understand that different models of cameras are different. Problem 2. Batteries may not interchange between models. And more on that one next. Batteries do not interchange. Problem: the batteries may or will not interchange. Between brands, you cannot put a Canon battery into a Nikon. And between models, similarly, you may not be able to put the battery from Model A into Model B of the same brand. So, if you go to the venue with the wrong battery, you cannot use your camera. Close does not work for camera batteries. The battery for the T5i is just a little bit bigger than the battery for the T7i. If the T5i battery is shoved into the T7i, it could get stuck. Murphy's Law struck. This happened to us 3 times in 2 years. Removing a stuck battery will be an expensive repair bill. When it happened to us the last time, we were 5 minutes from putting it in the mail to send it to Canon to get repaired. To deal with this problem, I color code my cameras and batteries. So, one particular model of the camera has an orange dot on it. All the batteries for that camera have an orange dot. Another camera has a green dot, and its batteries have green dots. Orange battery into orange camera, green battery into green camera. It takes away the decision where you have to figure out, does this battery fit into that camera? All you do is match the colors. There is a problem of buying just for your school. That gear may not work at other schools at away games. For instance, in this table, home field, football, Menlo Field. We do not have lights in our stadium, so we have to play our football during the day at 10 a.m. Lots of sunlight. We can use the Canon T7 because it is an inexpensive camera. Lens 70-300, again because it is a low-cost lens. However, if we have to go to an away game at Sequoia Field, games are at 7 p.m. at night, under lights, poor lighting condition. We cannot use the T7 or the 70-300. We need the higher ISO of the T8i and a faster 70-200 2.8 lens. So, if you had your T7 and that's all you had, you cannot shoot at Sequoia Field. Your gear just cannot handle that low light. Similarly, for basketball, our gym, we can use a Z50 Mark II and a 17-70 2.8. But at St. Louis Gym, the light is poor. Instead of the 17-70, we need to use a 35 1.4, the fast prime. Summary: while there are kits for each camera brand, your requirements may dictate a different kit. Standardize as much as you can, one brand and model. Determine how many cameras and lenses you will need. Then make a multi-year purchasing plan. Adjust as the equipment market changes. If you get grants, use it to advance future purchases. This builds your system faster. And if you have DSLRs, plan your migration to mirrorless. The end. Please continue to part 6, other stuff, and please like and subscribe.